Hey everyone, today's story is the story of Jesus dying on the cross and rising again. Now we might not think about that as a miracle in the Bible. And usually when we're talking about miracles, we don't really talk about that one as a miracle. But really, what Jesus did when he died on the cross and rose again was the greatest miracle of all of the New Testament. Of all of Jesus' ministry, it was the greatest miracle. Because what happened that day is when Jesus died on the cross, he miraculously took all of our sin, every wrong thing that everyone who has ever lived, including you and me and everyone who has lived throughout history and will continue to live, he took all of our sin and he put it all on himself. He became the sacrifice for all sin at all time. Now, this wasn't a miracle that everybody could see. We could know what was going on, but this is what Jesus was doing. And the disciples understood it fully after Jesus had risen from the dead. And so what happened, Jesus took all of his sin. So as he was dying on the cross, as he had been crucified and the nails were through his hands and he was hanging there, he was taking the sin of the world onto himself so that he was guilty for our sin. So he took our guilt and he took the punishment that we deserved onto himself. Now, so much stuff in the Gospels. You can read about this story in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all four of the Gospels. And so many things happened when Jesus died on the cross. There was darkness, there was an earthquake. In one of the Gospels, it talks about the graves opening up and then people, people like rising out of the graves. It talks about the curtain in the temple that divided the high priest from the people. It was torn from top to bottom. There were so many amazing and miraculous things that happened when Jesus died. But the most amazing and miraculous thing was the thing that was to come. The disciples and the followers of Jesus took his body and they took him and they placed him in a tomb, and they were grief-stricken. They were so sad. They couldn't believe that this person who they loved so much and they had been following was not alive anymore. They didn't understand the whole plan. They didn't understand the miracle that Jesus was doing right at that moment. And they put Jesus' body into a tomb. And the Gospels tell us that there were Roman guards placed in front of the tomb, and a great stone was put in front of the tomb, and there was a seal placed on it so that no one could steal the body of Jesus. And then on the third day, the morning of the third day, the women that followed Jesus, they came to the tomb because they wanted to put spices on the body. They wanted to do the thing that was traditional for them to do at that time. And so they went down there and they were worried about how they were going to open up the tomb because it had that great big rock in front of it. And they got there and the stone was rolled away. And they went inside into the tomb and they expected fully to see Jesus' body laid out there because they had seen him dead. They had taken him, they had put him in there. And he was not there. He was not there. And then it's different in each story, it's a little bit different of how people remembered it being. But then they saw that Jesus was there or an angel was there, and the angel said, "He is not here, he is risen." That's how it is in some of the Gospels. And in other ones of the Gospels, they saw Jesus themselves. They saw him risen. Well, this was the greatest miracle that Jesus did. Not only did he take all of our sin and all of the wrong that we have ever done, and he took it on himself and he took the punishment for it, but he conquered sin and he conquered death when he rose again from the dead. When he was resurrected, when he came back to life, the greatest miracle of all time took place. Jesus was alive. He conquered sin, your sin and my sin and everyone's sin. He conquered sin. He conquered death. So now we can live forever with him in heaven. When we ask Jesus to come into our heart and to forgive our sins, we become a child of God, we become part of the family of God, we are forgiven. And that means that our name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life that is in heaven. And there is a place for us in heaven. And Jesus is there right now preparing a place for all the people who trust in him and believe in him. Well, I hope today that you know that you are a follower of Jesus, that you've asked him to come into your heart and you've invited him in. You've accepted the forgiveness of sin that he is giving to you because of his death on the cross and the greatest miracle when he rose again.